Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is the last day of the ATSV 2020 show. Jason Shin here. I have been your virtual MC all week long. Unfortunately, I do have a scheduling conflict this morning. I'm going to have to pass the torch over to John Banker, who's our beloved trade show director and quite a good speaker himself, as he's proven yesterday during our African panel. So I would just like to introduce our first speaker of the day. This is Nathan Bekerman from Axlebek. So Nathan, welcome to the show. I understand you've been to the Miami show before in person.
Indeed, yes. Thank you very much, Jason. I have.
Okay, great. So without further ado, again, I'd like to reiterate for everybody watching that we do have a chat function. If there's any questions, John will address them at the very end of the presentation. And then also we do have a live hangout bottom right-hand side of your screen. I encourage everybody to pop in there. That's taking the place of our show floor. So our speakers, our partners, our ATS staff will be popping in and out of there all day long. Also, don't forget to check out our exhibitor hall to take a look at who's been exhibiting at our virtual show. Without further ado, it's been a great pleasure to be here with you this whole week and to engage with all of you. I've had some really fantastic questions and engagement from the audiences and our panelists and our speakers. So thank you so much. And with that, I will see everybody at the next show. Jonathan, passing the torch, my friend.
Awesome, thank you. And Nathan, looking forward to hearing your conversation here. Let's pass it on to you.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, John. I appreciate the time. Again, I want to be as candid as possible with my time here. I want to also leave as much time as possible for Q&A because I know how valuable these sessions can be. So my goal really is to be as valuable to the audience as possible. So we'll leave as much time as possible for Q&A. I'm just going to go through a couple slides and then we can go from there. Give me just 1 second. Let me get my screen up. Okay. Perfect. So what I wanted to talk about today are these topics are near and dear to my heart, are things that I talk about every day with clients, vendors, and partners in the industry. And it's really the most important things to know about what you should have squared away when you're developing apparel. And these are something that maybe some people who have been in the industry for a while already know, maybe some things that people who are new to the industry don't know yet. But either way, I think it's valuable for all of us to kind of touch base and get on the same page. And again, I'm more than happy to answer questions on any of these when the time comes. So the three main topics are the agenda is number one is design and development when developing apparel. Number two are knowing your price points and understanding where your price points are going to be when you're in production. And number three are hidden costs of producing apparel. So what's important when it comes to design and development? There's a couple key elements that a lot of startup brands especially maybe sometimes overlook, and I think it can be very valuable for those brands to start to think about before. And the earlier you think about these things, the more powerful you'll be. Design development is really the most important phase when you're going to produce apparel for a multitude of reasons. But if you can imagine, if I were to use an analogy, which I like analogies because they're easy to explain. When you're going on a long adventure or running a marathon, if you don't have a map of where you're running or where you're going to go or how long you're going to go or what you're looking for, it's going to be very difficult for you to know if you're being successful or not, and if you're on time or if you're not. And so that's why we invest so much time into design development with our clients. It's something that we've seen more and more. It pays dividends on the back end in the future of production. So a couple important points of design development that are very important to keep in mind. So reference samples are top of mind when it comes to clients and saying, look, I want to create a new collection, or I'm looking to develop my new activewear line, or I want to do new denim. The quickest way to narrow down what fabrics you need, what trimmings you need, what factory you're looking for, is to understand a reference sample. Reference samples are very good. They come in hand with sketches or any designs that you may have of your apparel that you're creating, because it allows the factory to understand exactly what you're looking for. And keep in mind, a reference sample doesn't have to be exactly what you're looking to produce, but it is the closest thing that you've been able to find in the marketplace that's easily accessible, of course, that you can say, okay, these are the reference sample that I'm looking for. I want to change this or make these tweaks, or I'm looking for a different fabric, but it really narrows down what you're looking for. Number two, and it's another very, very important part of the design development process, it's creating and having a tech pack. Tech packs are, how I call them, is the Bible of your product, because it lays out the entire needs that you have when you're creating an apparel product. Everything from packaging, trimmings, all the measurements and all the different sizes that you're going to be producing, different colorways, the decoration method, what type of fabric is acceptable. And the reason that tech pack is so important, because like I mentioned before, when you're going into a production, you want to understand exactly what is and what is not acceptable from that factory. And so whether it's a fabric factory, whether it's a decoration, whether you're working full package with someone, you want to understand exactly what you've asked them to do. And the tech pack is an official documented way to make sure that what you're asking from the factory is exactly what you're getting. Upfront and back-end costs are a very important part of that, because it plays into the tech pack and the reference samples. When you do the work beforehand, and what I mean by and I'll explain what I mean by upfront and back-end costs. When you do the work on the front end of your production, that means having the right fabrics, going through all the fabric samples if you're going to have multiple fabrics on your garment, understanding all the trimmings, making sure you have the product specs correct. Sometimes that can be a very tedious job, and there's more resources, time, and money that needs to be invested on the upfront side of that. But there's a difference, and if you don't invest on the beginning side of your production, the back-end costs will outweigh the upfront expenses. And just one example that I can give, I had a client who came to me and said, look, I've been doing production in Asia for a few years, and we've never created a tech pack. We don't know what our products should be measuring. We don't know what the large should measure. We just know we put in the orders and we sell at our retail location. And so what ended up happening, number one, is that client doesn't own their garment because they don't know what the sizing is. They don't really have control of their product. And number two, now the costs that are involved in having to create new production lines, find new suppliers without even knowing what their product is, what the materials they're using, what the trimmings are, all those things are much more expensive for them now than it would have been if they created the tech pack and went through the proper product design and development process.
Hey, Nathan, could I, on that topic, because someone came in and a question popped up, which was,
sure.
They said, how hard can you really push the factory regarding those tech pack details? You know, I guess, and they say, are there any tips on that? Like, maybe there's a leverage point. I mean, I don't know. What's your advice
sure.
on that before you move forward?
Sure. That's a great question. It's a great question. So keep in mind that you're the one creating the tech pack, and it's up to you to put as many or as little details as you want in that tech pack. And so what is important when you're dealing with a factory is to understand, look, different factories have different leverage points, right? And some factories are doing everything in-house. Other factories are subcontracting some of the work. So you have to understand exactly where your leverage points and what you're looking for. But in my opinion, the things that are in the tech pack are the things that you should expect from the factory. You shouldn't deviate from that. So if you're asking for a 5 or 10 inch inseam on a pair of shorts, you should be getting a 5 or 10 inch inseam. It shouldn't be 6 or it shouldn't be 12 inches. And if it's not, you should at least be getting another sample to make sure it matches your desire, or you should be looking for a different factory that can work with you, right? I hope that answers the question, but I'm more than happy to dive into that. The last important point is design development, which I think a lot of brands don't take advantage of enough, and that is using your production samples as a selling material, sales materials. And so in this day and age that we're living in, you can do a lot of pre-selling of products before you even produce them. And I've seen brands do it very, very well. So grabbing a production sample, doing a photo shoot with a few models, making sure you have content over social media really allows you to build that clout that a lot of brands are looking for, even before you've gone into production or while you've gone into production. Being able to use a production sample to sell or do a pre-sale while you're in production allows you to maybe offer a sale to your customers and prepay for the production, which you're going to need the capital anyway. So just a couple points of design development, but again, more than happy to dive into the questions later. The second most important, or just as important, but the second topic that I want to cover is price point. So there's a couple important topics within the price point that we all need to understand. And this is where I've seen a lot of brands struggle recently to understand how they should be pricing their apparel. There are multiple factors to consider, but these are just a few that I have here. Number one is the market niche that you're going after. Number two is the competitors that are in that niche with or against you. Number three is the value add that you're bringing to differentiate you from the competitors. Are you doing an eco-friendly product? There's a couple things that can add to your price point. And the fourth is very important, is the cost-based pricing. So this also goes back to the reference samples that you're looking at when you're looking at apparel and going to develop other things that are going to be competing with existing products in the market. You want to make sure that you can take a solid look at what the pricing strategy of your competitors are. Even if it's a reference sample that it's a product that you like and you want to do something similar, it's very important that you understand what they're charging and why they're charging that. There's great examples of pricing power and pricing parity and power. This just goes back to business class, but to understand the consumer behavior, especially where you're going to be selling, is a key point. If you're going to be selling on Amazon, or if you're going to be selling retail, or if you're going to be selling wholesale, all those factors are very, very important when considering price. The value added portion is one that has become more and more of a focus of recently, because I've seen more brands go into embedding technology in the fabric, moisture wicking, antibacterial, those kinds of things, odor protection, as well as eco-friendly recycled polyester, recycled cotton, organic cotton. There's plenty of things you can embed in your apparel. A lot of it is branding as well, that can allow you to command a higher price. And so there's two ways to approach it. You can go from front to back, and by front to back, I mean, what's the market offering? Where can you price your point, and then find what you can pay to make that product. And then the other way, back to front, would be to see what the cost of your ideal product is, and then see if you can compete in the marketplace knowing that cost structure. And it's very important to have the numbers down. The numbers are very, very important because it allows you to be ready to go when you're in production or when you're going to be negotiating with that factory to know how much you can pay. Because if you don't know how much you can pay, then the conversation with the factory is going to be very difficult for you to dominate. I stop there if there's any questions, or we can take them at the end as well.
I have a question.
Sure.
John Banker does. So I would think that would be something that a newer startup would have a lot of difficulty with, being able to calculate that price. And a lot of times a newer designer might be like all caught up in the actual design side of it and not so much the business element. Correct. So I don't know, there's probably some tips on you telling people maybe try to slow down your excitement and make sure you have both sides of the equation balanced or whatnot. I mean, what do you have to say about that?
So it's interesting because a lot of there's a lot of back and forth on this topic. What I would recommend is the following. This is how I would look at it if I were starting a brand, and I've helped start hundreds of brands at this point. I would start knowing where you want your product to be, what your market niche is, and what your price point is going to be. There, you can backtrack and say, okay, this is what I have to work with. Because the truth is, you can make a swimsuit that is $500, and you can also make a swimsuit that's $20. So it's up to you where you want to compete and what your brand really speaks to. Who is your target customer? All those things are very important questions to have answered before you go into production, before you go to negotiate with the factory. The designers at the same time, we love them. We can't live with them, can't live without them. But the truth is, a lot of times they're not in touch with the business side and the cost side. So there's a lot of back and forth when it comes to that side. And I know that, when we work with our clients, usually the design and the business team is involved in almost all the conversations for that exact reason. And so the design team works with our design team, but at the same time, we know very clearly what our budget is for this garment. And we need to know, okay, if we're going to spend a little bit more on fabric, we need to, cut back on trimmings in order to make this piece work, right? And so there's a couple things there, but it's a great question, John. So the last portion of this, the conversation, and I'm happy to dive into any questions, but hidden costs. It's a big thing that I've been talking about with clients recently, and more and more people are starting to realize it. It's something you find out as you work, and then once you realize your production is like, well, wait, what's this bill? And things end up piling up, and all of a sudden it's not just what the factory quoted you. There's a couple other things. So hidden costs of apparel manufacturing. And this is going to be most important for all those startup brands that are doing their first production. And I think we're living in special times right now where a lot of brands are able to enter the market and able to find quick success with apparel products. But there are some things that you should keep in mind. Number one is duties. Duties are extremely top of mind right now, especially with what's been going on with the current administration. There's a lot of duties on apparel products. Shipping costs, hidden shipping costs. Remember, there's last mile shipping, lost sales, and unsold inventory. Those are the most important, and a lot of people don't talk about those. So duties, we know, everyone knows what duties are, but not a lot of people factor them into their costs. It's very important that before you go into production, knowing where you're going to bring your product, where your market is, where your clients are, and also knowing where your products are being manufactured. And so there's a lot of things that go into calculating what the duty is of a garment. There is a website, which I'm happy to share after the conference, that tells you, using a different HS code, which is basically a code that determines what product, what category that product falls into, is assigned a duty. And sometimes if it comes from a specific country, it has an additional duty. And so those duties are paid when you come in to the port of destination, even if it's air or sea. A lot of times when brands manufacture with factories, they don't know that the duties are going to be part of that cost. And so it's very important that you factor that in before you go into production, because there are some things that you can do if you know the duties beforehand to minimize or reduce basically the amount of duties that you have to pay. Whether it's using fabric from a duty-free country, or working with a different manufacturer that can offer you duty-free products, or some manufacturers offer you LDP pricing, which is landed duty paid. And so there's a couple things you can do to mitigate that. Shipping is a big one, because right now during the COVID pandemic, we've seen shipping prices go up significantly because less people are traveling, more products are shipping. So it's something to keep in mind. It's also very important to have very firm quotes from your shippers. The way we work with our clients is we usually include shipping. So we have a logistics team that's very focused on shipping costs, and shipping costs vary every week, almost every day. And so it's very important that you know when the production comes around, have you locked in the shipping costs? Because, you know, a couple $100,000 or a couple $100 here or there will affect your per garment price. Lost sales and unsold inventory. Those are the most hidden costs because you don't see it on your income statement or on the numbers that you run, but they are costs that you incur. Lost sales are plain and simple products that you didn't have that someone would have paid you for. And unsold inventory is obviously a product that you were not able to sell that you probably have to either go on a very heavy discount or keep in a warehouse, which costs you money as well. And so both of those things are important. They go in tandem. That's why a lot of clients that we've seen work with are opting for nearshoring production in order to have shorter inventory cycles and be able to replenish their inventory much quicker. Air shipping is one way to solve that, but obviously it's costly. So there's a couple different strategies that you can employ in order to reduce these hidden costs, but they're definitely something important to keep in mind. If there's any questions on that, if not, I wanted to touch on the, just a final note of the future. And I think that we're living in very interesting times as everyone's been kind of shifted to work from home and changing landscape of retail and apparel and how products are being sold. But I think there's a bright future ahead. And kind of one of the things that I think about that gives me hope is understanding the amount of growth we've seen of apparel brands and direct-to-consumer brands in the last 3 to 6 months is really incredible. I was actually taking a look at Shopify, who reported quarterly earnings yesterday morning, and they actually reported that their revenue from the year prior doubled. And that was all due to new stores signing up, trying to sell products, trying to sell apparel. And so that to me is a very bright sign. That's, we know a lot of the big box retailers are having a lot of issues because of retail traffic, but I definitely see a massive opportunity for direct-to-consumer brands to fill that void and fill that gap and be able to offer products to consumers who are ready and able to make purchases at home. They just need the right products in their hand. And so with that, I'll give a quick plug on who I am and what we do, just to answer, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. But again, my name is Nathan Bekerman. I'm a founding member of Axlebek, and we are a development and manufacturing company that help clients basically do and manage all the issues that I've spoken about, be able to manufacture your products and be able to negotiate and speak with factories in the right way. Thank you, John.
Sure. That's one of the questions. I've got like 3 or 4 here that popped over during your chat.
Yeah.
I've seen. And one of them here was asking questions before you mentioned that, but I think you should say a little more. But it was, they wanted to know more about your business. Is it consulting or production, and where you're located? So maybe you can explain a little bit more about that.
Sure, I would love to. So we are located in Miami, Florida. That's where our headquarters are, but we have a remote team. We're across 3 different continents, actually. So we offer consulting and manufacturing. The way that we actually work is we have relationships with over 25 different factories, and we do most of our production in South America, but that's not the only place that we do production, but that's where we differ usually because of the duty-free treatments of the products. And so we manage design, development, and production for our clients. We have a design team, we have a production team, and we have a project management team. And sort of the way that we work with our clients is they come to us with a desire, with a need. I'm looking to develop this product, and we help them create everything from the tech pack, the patterns, graded samples, and then we go into sample production. We find what's the best fabric for your product, what's the best factory, we handle the relationship with the factory, and we actually do everything from packaging, trimming. We give you a retail ready product and we deliver it. So our logistics team as well brings product from the factory to your warehouse, or in some cases, we actually drop ship for our customers from our Miami warehouse. So that's kind of top level of what we do. We're dedicated to helping our clients. Really, the way that we work best is long-term partnerships. To date, every client that has worked with us is still working with us. So we're proud to say that we've never lost a customer because of our loyalty and the way that we work with them. And so, more than happy to talk to anyone if they're looking for some help.
Is there like a main area of the apparel and textile industry or that you focus on, like clothing wise, or anything more specific with the connections that you have in South America or wherever?
Sure. So there's a couple categories that we're very strong in. We've done some development work in others, but where we're very strong is activewear, swimwear, and then everything basics included with, organic cotton, recycled cotton, stuff like that. Then when we've gone into high fashion, we've done some denim work. We've done some casual work as well. The thing is, because we have a large network of factories, we're really able to work within the realm of what our clients need. But it really it's up to what our clients look for.
Okay. And then that something you just said brings up this other question. It was about sustainable and eco-friendly price points.
Sure.
So you were talking about that, and besides getting the cost points to, what something costs to produce, any tips on how to really understand, the market for pricing when it comes to, I guess, an eco-friendly product, besides just, calculating how much it costs to produce? So you figured that out. And then maybe they're saying they sort of know their market, but maybe it's more like they're really focused on their product. Like, let's say they didn't say what product it is, but let's say it's an eco-friendly, I don't know, swimsuit or something. And so they're trying to figure out, since if we're marketing it as eco-friendly, sustainable and whatnot, how to market, how to calculate how much more that would be priced for, I guess is the question.
Okay, that's a good question. So what I would do if I were that person is, first I would look at, are there any companies offering also a sustainable, eco-friendly product that's similar to mine? That would be the first thing that I look at. And then I would obviously see what price they're charging for the product. Then that you get a gauge of where you are in the market. Then you can also understand with your marketing strategy, do you want to sell? Do you want to sell wholesale? Do you want to sell retail? Do you want to go direct to consumer? Understanding that will help you decide where your pricing is going to be. If you're only going to do wholesale, you're going to have lower prices because you're selling wholesale, but you're going to be selling a lot more quantity. And so those wholesalers are going to need a price that works to compete with this other competitor that you just found. So that's one way to sort of back into the price that you're looking for. The other important factor, obviously, how how much it costs. Usually there's, the margins in retail are usually very simple. 60% wholesale and 100% for retail. But those vary a lot. And so it depends on where you're going to be in the marketplace. If your product is new and there is no competitor, then you have a bit more pricing power, and you're able to have higher margins. Those are some of the ways I would think about it. Obviously, it takes in-depth analysis and understanding their product category. Again, I'm more than happy to discuss.
Okay, two more questions. One's coming in, but one here about duties. How do we learn to stay up to date on this duties and the election? Do you think the election will have any effect? And if so, how soon or after the election would any changes take place, in your opinion?
So I won't get into politics, but what I can say is that there's a few different websites. The custom border website, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, But there's a website where the U.S. and Canada Customs and Border Patrol announce their duties and changes to duties. And this is a website that I would recommend all apparel manufacturers and brands be very wary of, to understand what the duties are for the products that I'm going to be that I'm manufacturing. The other key point of duties are that you have to understand there are free trade agreements with the US and Canada where some countries, for specific products, come into the country duty free. And so those are some of the things that we help our clients with. We guide them through that. We understand that process very well, and really allows us to say, look, it cuts down the time. Like, you don't have to go searching 500 different factories. These are the products that you can get duty free. This is where the price range should be, and that's kind of how you look at it. And with regards to the election and the future, I'm not really sure what's going to happen, but I can tell you that duties have been here and have affected the marketplace in a very important way.
Fair. Okay. And then this is the last one I've gotten so far, and it says, if I already have some samples, but I don't have the tech pack, is that something you can help or assist with, creating a tech pack with samples already made or photos of the samples?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. The key part of having the samples, and remember, the tech packs are more important than the samples, because in the tech pack, you know exactly what the measurements are of every size that you're producing. And so you can have a sample done, but the production might be slightly different than the sample. And then that's when brands get into trouble and have sizing issues where they're not consistent with their sizes, and a large on a t-shirt is not the same fit as a large on the long sleeve. And you want to make sure that if one person comes to your brand and is buying 5 or 6 different products, that the large is the size that they should be buying across all products. It shouldn't be an extra large in one product and a medium in another, or a large in another. That's the important part of a tech pack, to understand your measurements and understand your fit. But the short answer is yes, we can create tech packs using reference samples, and we're more than happy to do that.
Lately, it seems like my size larges are fitting a little tighter. I don't know if it's the COVID-19 or what it is.
Definitely the COVID-19.
I don't know. I think the clothes are just shrinking. At least that's what I'm going to go with.
That's what they're saying. Trust me, it happens to me too. Definitely.
All right. Well, listen, that covers the questions that I've gotten in. I've enjoyed having the conversation with you. I think it's great. I let everybody know we take all of the presentations, Nathan's and everybody's, and we take them and we put them on our YouTube page, and we have them recorded for everybody to go back there and see. And we get a lot of views on there. And so I can't thank you enough for coming on and providing this information. I think with our audience, and based on the questions I saw, that there could be some people that might be interested in talking to you in the future. And I'll make sure and pass along that. Gosh, I do see one more question. Could I ask you one more question?
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
No problem.
I purchased textiles from USA that was labeled as made in USA. However, I got a bill for duties, import fees, that was 4 times higher than the actual cost of the fabric, and it was labeled imported from China. Now, I don't know if that's a question or a comment, or if you have anything to say related to that, but that's what just popped up.
Yeah, well, the truth is that where duties are highest right now are with Chinese products. And that's just a fact of the matter, specifically for U.S. import. I'm a bit less familiar with Canada, but that's definitely somewhere where you have to be very wary of what you're getting. That's why negotiating the delivery terms with the factory are very important. Where are you taking delivery of the goods? Is it at the factory at origin? Is it at the port? Is it inside the country already after duty paid? So those are some of the things that we help our clients with. Again, I'm more than happy to take any questions or private conversations. Just a note for you, John. I mean, thank you again for the time, for the questions. I think this show can be instrumental for a lot of brands This is not my first time attending. You guys have a great team at Apparel and Textile, and really a lot of information, a lot of insight, a lot of connections. So it's a great show, and I hope that all the audience out there takes advantage of it. And again, I'll be more than happy to reach out. Our information, or my contact information, is just Nathan, Nathan, at Axlebek, AXLEBEK.com.
Thank you so much, Nathan. And
Thank
we
you,
really
John.
appreciate it. We'll talk to you later. Have a great day. And everybody stay tuned for the next session that starts at the top of the hour.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.